Hello and welcome to our presentation. My name is Mac Murphy and I'm here with my good friends and fellow team members, Robert Monson, Sam Peters, and Jaxson O'Gorman. We're grateful for this opportunity today to present on the company Nike, and we chose to focus on Nike golf shoes specifically within Nike. Being the avid golfers and golf lovers that we are, we thoroughly enjoyed researching this topic, and we're grateful for the opportunity to present it to you today. We're going to move on to our product marketing plan, and I will be presenting that. Overall, we have decided that we will change the advertising focus of Nike itself to target the golfing community that has a greater knowledge of the golfing sport itself. We believe that this will continue to maintain the market share that Nike has already amassed and increase the profit for the brand as a whole. I will now pass it over to Sam Peters to present a little bit more on his SWOT analysis.
Thank you, Mac. To dive in a little bit deeper of Nike itself, we're going to talk about the product that we have chose, which is the shoe line of the Nike Golf shoe line. First off, let's start off with the strengths. The Nike shoe is a very classy look, and it could also be compared to a very street-styled footwear. This allows Nike to be able to really diversify its customers from those that want the classic look to those that prefer the now more trendy version. With those trendy versions, Nike has dropped several different types of shoes in their golf line, such as Jordans. And with these Jordans, from being a very stylish shoe, all they've really had to do is just add on a new base layer at the bottom and add a little bit more support to make them a golf shoe. Obviously, being a golf shoe, they have to meet certain qualifications. Those qualifications are being comfort, breathable, and waterproof. With the certain types of Nike golf shoes that you can order and purchase, comes a variety of different pretty much of what you want to choose, whether that be more breathable or more waterproof, you can pick. They also provide good grip and support on the range and throughout the course, which is very high in what most golfers need and want. Also, good strength is that they're priced. They are priced at a very competitive pricing market with their competitors. I would say one of the biggest strengths to this Nike golf shoe line is that PGA Tour players advertise these Nike shoes throughout their whole career. One of those players being Tiger Woods, another one being Rory McIlroy. As a huge golf player, or as a new beginner golf player, everyone has lots to talk about of Tiger Woods. And so that being said, having Tiger Woods advertise for Nike, it allows a lot of new customers to come in. A huge strength is also brand loyalty. Customers are very loyal to the brand, and whether that be a new golfer or an expert golfer, they are able to rely on Nike and purchase those Nike golf shoes. Let's talk about the opportunities. A big opportunity for Nike is obviously that they have the PGA Tour players wear their shoes. This is a huge opportunity because it allows thousands of viewers of the golf programs to look at their players that are wearing their shoes and wearing their shoes, and so that allows a lot of revenue. Also, Nike they have a large range of styles. So whether you want these nice zebra print shoes or you want a classic look, the styles range in great variety. Some of the weaknesses that we have kind of researched is that the prices can be pretty high depending on what type of shoes you want to buy, whether that be the newer shoes, the nicer golf line, then you will be spending a little bit more rather than you can go to your competitors and spend less. Also, with the new golf line, Nike has been able to add traction on the bottoms of their shoes rather than just spikes. A lot of players like the traditional spikes because they do add a little bit more grip. Also, not everyone likes the streetwear look. And so a lot of this could be a weakness because people like the classic look of golf shoes. And then a major weakness is people don't recognize Nike as a major golf competitor. Rather, Nike is more of an athletic competitor in that realm. Some other threats are is after Tiger Woods was recently in a car accident, he was seen with FootJoy shoes on. Tiger Woods is sponsored by Nike, so this was a huge negative media impact on Nike. Another threat are obviously competitors, whether that be Under Armour, Adidas, FootJoy, and so on. Competitors can steal the customers that Nike already has. Now let's talk a little bit more about the price of Nike, and I will pass that on to Jaxson.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Nike SWOT for pricing. And so we're going to start off with strengths. Their first strength is their low manufacturing costs. Most of Nike's footwear is not manufactured in the US, which makes it much cheaper to manufacture the shoes. And so 51% of their products are produced in Vietnam, 24% is produced in China, and 21% is produced in Indonesia. So having the production in other countries is a big strength for Nike, as it's fairly inexpensive compared to the US. Our next strength is Nike's marketing strategy. And so they have superior marketing capabilities. They have excellent marketing campaigns where the brand heavily relies on demand creation expense. And that includes promotion or advertisement, promotion, endorsement contracts, media print, and complementary products. In the fiscal year 2019, 2020, and 2021, Nike had an advertising budget of 3.7 billion, then 3.6 billion, then 3.1 billion. And these advertising campaigns hugely impact Nike's sales in a positive way. And now we're going to move on to Nike's weaknesses in their price. So a big weakness for Nike is the retailers have a strong hold, meaning Nike's retail sector makes Nike weak due to its sensitivity against pricing. So 65% of Nike's products are sold directly to retailers and wholesalers. And so Nike doesn't have, they don't have a say in the pricing structure. Another weakness for Nike is their pending debts. And although Nike looks like a very profitable company, on their when you look at their balance sheet, you might think otherwise, because Nike, even as of 2021, has $9.4 billion in debt. And then the third weakness is dependency on the United States. So Nike is established globally and has a large brand name throughout the world. Although North America, in North America alone, that's 39% of Nike's sales. And so they don't have, Nike depends on the US for sustainable sales and growth. Moving on to opportunities for Nike's pricing SWOT, is an aggressive, so these kind of go hand in hand, but an aggressive move towards online sales and cutting ties with big retailers. So as Nike stops distributing more to retailers and starts to move online, it's going to cut down on their costs because they won't be shipping it to they won't be shipping it to warehouses and then from the warehouses to the wholesalers and retailers. Instead, they'll be shipping directly to the consumers. And so that will save Nike a lot of money by cutting out the third party. And now we're going to move on to threats. A big threat for Nike is their counterfeit products. So there's a lot of fake Nike merch out there. And not only does that take away from their revenue, but it also can tarnish their brand image by if someone sees a pair of Nike shoes that aren't actually made by Nike, they could be much less high quality. And so that could deter consumers from wanting to buy Nike products. Another threat for Nike is the zero COVID policy in China. So like I said earlier, China, a lot of Nike's products are produced in China. And with the zero COVID policy, it means that far less people can be working on the line in factories, meaning it's going to be more time consuming and therefore more expensive. And so it disrupts their supply chain. Another threat would be the Ukraine and Russia war. Nike had to pull out of Russia due to a political stance. And so not only are they having to lose not only are they having to lose consumers in Russia, but also their buildings there and their stores are just sucking profits. And now I'm going to pass it off to Robbie to talk about the swap.
To Mac.
It's actually being passed back to me, Mac Murphy. Thank you guys for your SWOT analyses. I will now go into my SWOT analysis that we put together based off of the place. Nike has a lot of strengths. They have a handful of weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Going on to strengths, Nike has such a strong wholesaling and retailing and so many different distribution channels that they can focus on. Their two main sources of, or their two main channels of distribution are going to be selling to those US wholesalers and also their direct to consumer sales, whether those be them selling straight from their factory stores and their own retail stores to consumers themselves, or whether that be them selling online to their consumers. Those are two major channels that they utilize and that they utilize very well, and that bring them a lot of revenue and a lot of profit. Nike also has an extensive retail distribution kind of line, a big old pipeline where they have over 1,000 stores worldwide, with more than 300 in the United States of America. This allows them to ship their products out like crazy, and allows them to kind of be able to reach a large mass and a large audience and a large population to be able to get their products out there quickly and effectively, in a timely manner, to cut down lead times and to make sure that their customers are satisfied with the products that they're getting in the time that they're getting them. Moving on to a few weaknesses. For Nike golf shoes as a whole, they are absolutely not a focus in their retail strategy. And that's where their sales are most significant. That's where their sales are most prevalent. Nike isn't necessarily viewed as the greatest golf shoe, or the greatest golf product producer. So when you think of Nike, you don't necessarily think of their golf shoe line. As Sam stated, they're more focused on their streetwear and things like that. So when they're not the most popular going into place, why would other stores and other retailers want to give them shelf space if the far more popular, far more well-recognized golf-centered brands are going to be the ones that are going to be flying off of the shelves more likely? And another weakness is going to be that Nike's golf presence in the online place, in the online field, is pretty minimal. As we found out as a group, that as you search for what are the best golf shoes, what are the best golf shoes that you can buy, what are the best beginner golf shoes, Nike is nowhere to be found in these top 10, top 20 lists. And that's absolutely going to be a weakness for them due to just the lack of recognition of them as a golfing brand, and them as a golfing shoe brand. Some opportunities for Nike are that they have such a strong presence in the world and such a strong e-commerce presence, that they can absolutely utilize that and expand that even more so with their golf shoe line. They have such an opportunity to expand that. So we're looking into, as COVID hit, they decided to pull a little bit out of some of their different channels online in their e-commerce and in their e-commerce distribution, and they decided to switch to more direct to consumer, direct to customer, directly to those that are buying their products. So they shifted to selling from their own website, and that increased their sales dramatically in the e-commerce field, and that can only go up from here. And I know that if they take hold of that opportunity to expand their e-commerce sales, and that's going to benefit them monumentally. Another opportunity for them is to focus on another aspect of e-commerce, mostly just because it's online, it's electronic, it's digital, but that's through social media selling. Nike is considered one of the coolest brands, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many people, that is it's considered kind of a cool brand, and people love to see it. A lot of young people love to wear it. And if they were to sell on a platform such as Instagram and target their Instagram ads a ton, then they would be able to have that different platform, that different channel to produce new opportunities for them to sell these Nike golf shoes and get the Nike golf shoe word out. Because as I mentioned, they're not necessarily known for their golf shoes, and you don't think of Nike golf when you think of golf products. So this is a good way to get the word out and to kind of help them see more opportunities from their e-commerce sales. Moving on to threats at last. Of course, it's going to be other major golf brands that are taking up shelf space, that are taking up not only physical shelf space, but virtual e-commerce shelf space, where the Nike isn't even ranking on the top 10 lists, not top 20 lists, top 30 lists. So these major brands, FootJoy, Adidas, New Balance, Skechers even, they are far more prevalent in the golf shoe industry, in the golf shoe world. And that's absolutely a threat to Nike, because if you can't get your word out, if you can't get people to see your product online or in stores, then why would your sales go up? They won't. So that's a threat to them. Another threat is the fact that Nike, due to the fact that a lot of stores don't want or don't give them a ton of retail space, a lot of shelf space, including their own stores don't give them a ton of shelf space. They basically sell the large majority of their golf shoes primarily and purely online, which is great. Their online presence is growing immensely, but retail is still king, with the majority of sales coming through their retail stores, as people like to go in and they like to have the shopping experience. They like to be in the Nike store. They like to try on the shoes. They like to feel how it feels. And they like the ambiance of the buying experience. So that's a threat to them, is the fact that they, as a Nike, as their golf brand, they don't have the opportunity to kind of to showcase that in the way that they might want to showcase it. And I'm going to pass it on to Robert Monson, to talk a little bit more about his SWOT analysis.
Thank you, Mac. So just to wrap up our SWOT analysis of Nike as a whole, I'm going to finish it off with promotion. Now, this is really critical for Nike, especially to a lot of the suggestions we have after we finish our SWOT. One important thing that Nike has that we've touched on is Nike is well known and can use its brand name to promote the sale of its goods. So in its promotion, the Nike slogan of "Just Do It," they're able to use that to their advantage and have that brand character be added to the value of the shoe. And that's something that they need to do a little bit more of, but that is a strength that they can use for their golf line. And that's as the brand as a whole, but they can tie that into their golf shoe line as well. Another one is Nike has a lot of money to invest. Like Jaxson said earlier, they spent about $3.11 billion last year in advertising alone. Now, this is for the company as a whole, but if we look at it specifically for the golf shoe line, when you spread out that money out for each of the departments, Nike has a large product mix in their line. They have shirts, they have shoes, they have shorts, they have basketballs, they have all sorts of stuff. They have a large breadth, but as we go into depth within the golf shoe line, they can use that money to really promote their shoes in a stronger and more impactful way that they do like their other brands. And then one last thing of their strength is Nike has a large social media following. As we were saying earlier, Nike is a very trendy company. A lot of the younger generations connect with Nike, and a lot of the ads and advertisements that have been placed by Nike have been to that purpose of connecting with people from all backgrounds, all diversities, and creating to that trend. Now, the issue with that, the difficult thing with that is golf isn't as popular with the younger generation. And that's kind of one of their weaknesses. So because golf is tended to be seen as kind of an old man sport or an older generation or not as trendy, they have to overcome that stigma. And then also they do a lot of online advertising. So a weakness that we found is they have the money to spend on their advertising. They have the money to do direct mail to areas. They have the money to do different forms, but they do spend a lot of their time and efforts on the social media aspect and on the online presence. So if they were to take that money and kind of invest it more in the direct mail or retail stores, that would be very beneficial to them as well. And then just the overall image of Nike shoes for their golf shoes specifically, they're not as well known. Not as many people know them. Among the golfing community, there are a few, but then if you're not necessarily an avid golfer and watch the PGA Tour, you might not know that Nike has some quality golf shoes. So that leads us into our opportunities. So one of the things that we've talked about earlier is possibly in the future, cutting down our supply chain, our distribution channels, and kind of cutting out that middleman of the retailer, just going straight to the consumer. That is a thing we can do in the future that would be beneficial. But until that moment, we still want to, they still have the opportunity of using these large retailers like Dick's Sporting Goods, Al's Goods, all these large sporting retailers to really promote their product in these stores. And like Max said earlier, people like to try on this stuff. They like to try on the shoes, see how they feel. So this would be beneficial to them. That's an opportunity. Also, they could do continued partnerships with major golfers connected to the PGA Tour. We know a few like Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. A lot of them are connected with Nike and the PGA Tour. However, not everyone watches the PGA Tour and is looking for what shoes these athletes are wearing. And so these partnerships with these athletes are going to be something that they can use on their social media website, get those athletes to promote their products for them rather than just be on TV with them, but promote them, talk about them, share them, post pictures with them. All these things are opportunities that Nike has and should take advantage of in their promotional strategies for their golf shoes. Now, a couple of threats that we've talked about as well. Adidas and Under Armour are some of the major ones. They've been in the game for a while. They're also well known. Their golf shoes, we feel like, are a little bit more well known than Nike of their quality, and golfers tend to go with those in the first place. And they also use a lot of influencers similar to Nike. So that is a challenge of which celebrities do you want to pair with your product to get the best exposure and also the best brand image that you're looking for. Another one is just the overall feeling around golf. If you're not an avid golfer, you probably don't watch the PGA Tour. If you know a little bit about it, you might be confused, don't know where to go. So they really have to overcome that barrier, that knowledge barrier. And one of the biases that people have of just information bias of I'm okay, I don't want to research about golf shoes. But that's something that you need to overcome. And also the seasonality of the sport. We understand that golf, and there are some places like Florida, for example, you can play year round, which would be lovely. But there are some areas that it's very seasonal. And so with that promotional strategy, you kind of got to plan for a pulse of knowing demand will rise and fall, but you got to continue that advertising throughout the whole year. With their golf shoes, they got to get the word out constantly. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves without promoting for a month and then get behind the ball of Adidas and Under Armour, and they're going to struggle to catch back up and keep those clients and customers that they needed. So that was kind of our overall SWOT analysis of Nike. And now I'm going to pass it back to Sam to talk a little bit about some changes we'd like to see.
Thanks, Robbie. So there are some changes that we do want to implement in Nike, and also that we would like to encourage Nike to remain the same. So in order for Nike to reach the experienced golfing community, Nike needs to focus more on a demographically based areas that have a higher knowledge of golf. This includes areas surrounding a few of the major golf courses in the country. Also, we would also like to target zip codes near golf courses with mailed promotions to really target the older audience. Also create golf course, like a Nike golf course, and host a fundraiser. If Nike's really wanting to get into this into this game and really step up the next level of their golf promotions, then they really need to then they could really do some of these things. And with that fundraiser, they could invite influencers and professional golfers. They could also increase the chatter about Nike and golf shoes on their main social media. They do not do a lot of advertising for their for Nike golf shoes. Also, they need to maintain the variety of options of shoe types that they already have. We think that as Nike's doing this, this allows for a lot of different types of golfers to come into the game and use their Nike golf shoes. I'm going to pass this back to Robbie to do a little bit more of the analytics.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. So as we said earlier, just kind of the getting into it a little bit deeper, we believe that direct mail would be a great way to promote and advertise their products, especially in those areas, those zip codes are targeting that segmentation that may have a greater knowledge of golf through that source. Nike has the money, is a little bit more expensive, but Nike has the money to do so. And if they really want to increase their share and maintain what they have so far, then they really have to put in the money to do this. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of fall behind the game. And then with that, the money to expand the golf course idea, it would really put Nike and show them as they're not just an athletic company, but they do have a golf company. This fundraiser could turn into something in the future that would benefit sales and also their just exposure as a whole. Now, one important thing is golf is very about what you know, who you know, and the expertise. With these expansions and with these promotions, Nike can be seen as an expert in golf because as of right now, they're not necessarily. They have a basic knowledge, but many of the golfers and the people who have golfing experience in the golfing community don't necessarily see him as a top dog in the field. And so they really got to spend the money if they want to take a part of it. Going along with that is Nike is about getting things done. Their motto, just do it, says it all. So if they really want to take a proactive approach, they need to address this head on if they want to maintain it. And with all these things, it's important to note that there are going to be those early influencers that take on the product. They'll tweet it, they'll post it. But if they really want to get those early adopters and kind of bridge that gap, they're going to have to put a little bit more into it. They're going to have to put in the effort to grab that group. And then once they're able to do that, they're able to maintain that level and increase some of their market share within the field. Now, these things are not easy to do. They take time, they take money, but Nike has it. And so I'm going to pass it off to Jaxson just to kind of wrap up some of the points we've talked about today in the conclusion.
So I'm going to talk about the conclusion of our presentation and just re-up on some of the benefits that Robbie described in the analysis. So not only would Nike continue to receive customers from their increasing brand loyalty, but they would also be reaching a larger golfing community to bring in more consumers that may not like Nike just for their brand image. Also, by implementing this change, they'll be able to maintain their golf shoes in the maturity phase for a longer period of time, which just keeps hold of their market share and brings in more revenue. With these benefits, Nike golf shoes will be able to overcome the competition and maintain their share of the market. Nike will be able to keep their shoes as cash cows for a longer period of time as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to our presentation. And that is all we have for you today. Have a good day.